Good afternoon, everybody. I just wanted to first thank Charmaine for her opening remarks. To many of you who don't know who I am Jeff Bogo. I'm Marion Bogo's eldest of 2 children. And with me today to share in the celebration is my wife, Shauna, who is practically Marion's daughter that she never had. She has known Marion for over 35 years and treated her like a daughter. Also today participating by video is my brother, John, and Marion's sister, Susan Stein, both who are in the United States. But most importantly is my father, Marion's devoted husband, Norman Bogo. He's also participating by video today. I would want to just acknowledge with the great gratitude of the University of Toronto and the individual efforts of Charmaine and Faye to organize this celebration of Marion Bogo in the face of the ongoing and considerable adversity that we have. I want to thank all of Marion's colleagues and dear friends who participate both in person and in video today. And I really am so excited to hear the professional elements of my mom. But what I can try to do, maybe just very briefly, just reflect on a few incidents, times in my life that I saw elements of her that, illustrated to me both as a human being and how she became successful professionally. I really became to see that when she first got opportunities that were completely outside the sphere of what normal, quote unquote, moms would do, whatever they did. This was having the opportunity to travel to Sri Lanka, a place I didn't know but was shown on a map, stay there for 4 months and establish the Faculty of Social Work there. Understandably, this was a new and considerable challenge for her. She had some trepidation and anxiety. But what really came through to us, and I think we'd like to take some credit, is the support that we had, her husband had, to dive into these opportunities. And she did so with gusto. She came back changed by the experience in many ways. And I have no doubt that experience really fostered things that we saw later on in her career. That was to promote, nurture, and establish faculties and other cultures seeing that the need that social work had. It really reinforced to me the dedication to put everything aside, but to really improve that. It was just amazing. And another example, and it's so good to see Heather today, to hear her speak, was when Heather was offered an opportunity that required her to leave as dean of the faculty, and that gave an opportunity to my mom to act as acting dean at the time. And she might have shown a lot of confidence externally, but to us as a family, she again expressed some anxiety and trepidation because she filled the very big shoes of Heather Munro Blue. And we said she could do it and we could support it. And she just dove into it again with the passion and gusto. And what struck us was always the collaborative aspect, the dealing with others in her own community, her own culture and colleagues. It just absolutely brought out the best in her. And I saw as time went on, and she just kept collecting awards, Governor General, associations, just things beyond what any of us would have expected. We just saw the core humility, passion, willingness to collaborate with others. And if anything, that left with my brother, myself, and I can see with the room and all the students who have even come up on the street and expressed their admiration for her, that was just so inspirational. And we hope that those qualities remain with the faculty in all of you, and that you can use those to both establish the field of social work and the university itself. And so we are so happy to have this celebration today, and very, very interested and excited from our family's perspective to hear professionally just a bit of the tip of the iceberg of what Marion meant to all of you. So thank you so much for listening, and I really, really look forward to the other speakers today.
Thank you, Jeff. It's lovely to hear from the family, and thank you, Charmaine, for inviting me to be here today. It's such a wonderful honor to be able to talk about Marion. It's it's also such a joy to see all the colleagues here today, people that we've talked to on Zoom over the last while, and people that we haven't seen in maybe close to a decade, and everybody coming back together is fantastic. And also to get to meet Jeff and Shauna, who I have communicated with at various times, and so wonderful to meet you in person. It's just been a great privilege of my life to have known Marion for over 40 years. It's sort of surprising when I think of 40 years, but it's been such a long time that she was part of my life. She was actually a practice partner of my father's when I was a teenager, and I met her at that particular time. She was the field coordinator when I was a master's student, and then again when I was a field instructor, she was still field coordinator. She was my teacher as a doctoral student and my dean, Heather, my first dean, and then Marion, my dean, as a doctoral student. She was my mentor as a junior faculty member, my co-investigator on many, many research projects. We wrote a lot together. And she was my trusted advisor, and I really feel honored to say my friend. She was also my travel companion. We spent quite a interesting, tiring, and at times harrowing week in China together. And I'll never forget the experience of being in so many different environments with Marion. So, like you, I'm sure, I've been thinking a great deal over the last few months about Marion and what Marion has meant to me. I've been reflecting on multiple conversations and interactions with her that I've had over the years. I've also had the privilege of working on an invited paper in a special section in JSWE that Faye and Kenta are working on with me in this series of papers. And all of these things have caused me to think a lot about Marion's contributions and what she's meant to our field. And I thought that there was really three major themes that come forward in all of this. And the first one is teaching. I don't think I've ever known anyone who talked as much about teaching as Marion, who was so focused on students and in both the informal and formal sense. In the classroom, she was fully there. She was concerned about the unique learning needs, the style of every student, and she worked hard to find ways to connect with each and every student that worked with her. She, as we all know, developed innovative and new approaches to teaching that have shaped social work. She brought the OSCE to social work by working with colleagues at the Wilson Center. She collaborated in developing simulation for social work. And I see Carrie here, who worked with her over the years in doing that. And outside the classroom, she approached each and every interaction as if it was a teaching moment. And you would feel that in her as she tried to think about, okay, well, how is this challenge that you're experiencing right now actually a way that you can learn about something important that's going to impact your career? So she encouraged all of us to reflect and grow. She always provided fresh perspectives, and she was remarkable being able to challenge us when she thought we needed challenging, and push us when she thought we needed pushing. And she would laugh at us when she thought our perceptions were maybe a little off. And those were all wonderful learning opportunities. So it's no surprise that she was made one of the inaugural members of U of T's Teaching Academy, the President's Teaching Academy, and shaped what that President's Teaching Academy was all about. And that she also received a Lifetime Achievement Award from CSWE for her incredible contributions to teaching. The second thing that I think about when I think about Marion is practice. I think I heard her say practice at least 1 million times. It's just a word that was part of every conversation. And her passion for teaching was really grounded in her passion for social work practice, even when others were not using the language of practice, and certainly nobody would utter the word clinical. Marion, nevertheless, was deeply committed to clinical practice and training people in clinical practice. She knew that how we educate social workers in the classroom to practicum and in advanced practice has profound implications for the lives of others that we as social workers serve. And no matter where we ended up in our career, Marion made us proud to be social workers and proud of our practice roots, and helped us see how our practice roots influenced everything we did subsequently in our careers. The third thing that I think about with Marion is the word relationship. And relationship underpinned absolutely everything that Marion did. And she understood every interaction and every behavior in terms of relationship. She wrote about relationship, she taught about relationship, she engaged with others in deep and meaningful ways, and she was always present in the moment. You always felt you had Marion's undivided attention, sometimes only 4 inches from your face, as she was trying to get a point across to you. And you knew that she was entirely focused on you and was interested in you as an entire human being, not just what you were going to bring to a particular circumstance. So she always made people feel like that she truly cared, because she did truly care. So Marion is recognized throughout the world for her groundbreaking contributions to theory and practice of field education. She is a force that changed social work education. She was also a force in the lives of those of us who had the privilege to know her, and I miss her terribly. Her political acumen, her wisdom, her knowledge and kindness are going to continue to have a profound influence on the field and on me personally. I am deeply, deeply grateful to Marion for all she's given me, but also to her family who so generously shared her with us.
Well, hello, everybody. I can't tell you, notwithstanding the enormously sad circumstance that brings us together, what it means to me to be here with all of you today. I met Marion in 1989 and have had the gift and joy of knowing her over a period of time since then, and in a very concerted way for over a decade. I was told we could only speak for 5 minutes, and I said, I can't do it. So I actually made notes to discipline myself. That means I'm not going to tell you the total toilet story from Japan. I'm not going to tell you about her and me having to bang our fists on the table when we were at a meeting with a bunch of older men who didn't want to listen to two girls talking about a friend, and Marion saying, go for it, Heather, go for it. I'm not going to do any of that. I'm going to stick with some themes that I wanted to bring alive, but in just mentioning those, I mentioned them because one of the amazing things about being with Marion, and we've heard a bit from Jeff and certainly from Rochelle as well, is it was really fun being with Marion. So I knew her over that very intense period of a decade and a bit as a professor and a professional, but also so much Jeff and Norm and John as a really proud and caring wife and mother. And Jeff, I think about being in the middle of a big planning session with her when you were a student at Western, and she got a call that you had been rushed into hospital with meningitis. And she dropped, the world stood still. She got in her car, and I was saying, don't go in your car on your own with your son in emergency. And she was determined how she went to be there, and the world stopped until she knew you were going to be okay. And it's just one moment of seeing someone who's such a consummate professional where her heart is with her son in that moment. And you know, with Norm and with her boys, she was always proud and deeply caring. She was a colleague who greeted me warmly when I didn't know what the heck I was doing, leaving McMaster in a research career, not in a social work department. I had 2 social work degrees, and I digressed, transgressed to go into another field in the interim, and I came back to a faculty. Honestly, when they phoned me to ask me if I was interested in the role, I thought they had called the wrong person. And I remember Mark Johnson, was that his name, was at the president's office at the time. He said, no, you're the person we'd like to have you come. And we have Sheila and Lillian and Ben here today, who were part of our cohort. Sandra ran at that time a really pivotal moment in the life of the faculty of social work. And it was me, just Pippi Longstocking, stepping into a world I didn't know a whole lot about, other than I cared deeply about social work, the values it stood for, the ability that social workers have to reach out to people who have high risk and who are in a position to collaborate in learning and practice. But that was kind of it. And then the journey began, and Marion was enormously warm and welcoming to me, and really said, this will be your home. And it became a home, and it became part of an adventure that I could not have imagined at the time. So I know you know Marion's history, but I want to just touch on it briefly because I think it really shaped her. She was born in Montreal. She went to McGill. She came from a family of loving parents, Nat and Tilly, both of whom were deeply involved in community service. And Marion followed in that tradition of a commitment to community service, but she added to it rigorous study and scholarship, commitment to teaching that you've described so well, Cheryl, mentoring, and she had an innate talent for leadership. She was a pioneer in her chosen profession of social work, inspiring the recognition that the field of education, the field, the practice in education is a signature pedagogy of social work education. And I think if you think about where learning in universities, in professional faculties has come over those decades, since Marion was the champion for field practice, is something that we know all professions should benefit from. And you don't even need to be in a profession to benefit from field education. But Marion carried that passion, dedication, and commitment. She was a joyful, enthusiastic, and determined person. She was an independent woman at a time and coming from a background that didn't make it that easy to be an independent woman. She loved having her own car. I remember not knowing what an Acura was and her taking me out into the parking lot to say, this is my car. And it was this really flashy black car. She was a really sharp dresser. She took rightful but not boastful pride in her achievements. She was a wonderful role model as a woman professional who also cared so deeply about her family. Her interpersonal skills, as you know and you've heard Jeff and Cheryl describe, were simply outstanding. She could engage presidents and provosts and overspent philanthropists to, through her winning disposition and compelling enthusiasm, sway them to do things they did not want to do because they would serve a cause that she knew was really important. She did this at home and abroad, and I learned as Cheryl did, being on the road with Marion was unlike anything. And I, after that, had international as part of my administrative responsibilities. Marion was my mentor, my formative teacher in that. She taught me, as I'm sure she's taught many of you, that intercultural work is omnipresent, and to do intercultural work requires deep discipline and engagement, and that it is two-way learning. We don't go somewhere and adopt all the customs and culture, and no one comes to us and does the same. We really together work to create something that's bigger and better and has all of us fluid and moving around. If that was true back in the 90s, it's sure true today. But my favorite time with Marion was when my partner Len and I visited her in Norm, and Norm, you've been much on my mind, at their Lake of Bays cottage. And with Norm at Lake of Bays, Marion in her bare feet and shorts and a t-shirt, she was truly herself. And I think, Jeff, you described this, that so many people who go out into the world in a public role, especially if they weren't brought up learning how to do that, you need an army behind you, telling you you can do it. And when I saw Marion and Norm, you knew how much Norm meant to her in letting her know she had the strength and intelligence to do everything that she wanted to do, and she wanted to do a lot. She said the sand at the cottage belongs as much inside the cottage as it does outside. That's not the Marion we knew in the professional sense. So it was a joy and a huge gift to learn from Marion, to be a friend. She played an extraordinary role in my life, which I know she did for all of you and so many who can't be here today. My heartfelt condolences, Norm, to you, Jeff, to you and your family, John, to you and your family. We all feel a big loss and we mourn with you, but we cherish the memories, we cherish the joy and the learning we have with Marion. And we share in your loss. Thank you.
Good afternoon and welcome, everyone. I really want to thank the organizing committee, Faye, Charmaine, Upala, and others for inviting me to share my reflections as a former student of Marion Bogo, and I am truly, truly honored. Marion's rock star reputation was made aware to me even before I stepped foot in her class. Prior to course selection, I met with one of her former students and asked him which professors to definitely meet. He said without hesitation, "You have got to get into Marion's class. You won't regret it." And so at 5:55 a.m. on a Thursday morning, I sat anxiously at my computer, waiting for the course selection screen to open. And when it did, her section for Elements and Lab was the very first one I selected. And that decision has influenced my life in more ways than I can count. Before class, we had to purchase textbooks. And of course, Element and Lab's required reading was Social Work Practice, Concepts, Processes, and Interviewing by Marion Bogo. Holy smokes, the author of this seminal work is going to be my professor? I'd imagined her as this intimidating presence because of her reputation in the social work community. I was in for a big surprise. When she walked into the class that morning, I felt immediately at ease. Marion radiated a warm and reassuring presence. Her smile was kind and patient. When she was talking to you, she made you feel like the most important person in the room, a theme I've heard over and over again from my other speakers. Elements and Lab is the very first class you take as a social work student. It has a profound impact on your foundational appreciation of what social work is at its core, and teaches you those micro-level skills that follow you wherever you go. It's Social Work 101, the heart and soul of it. And Marion dispensed social work practice wisdom freely and without restraint. She truly wanted to see each and every one of us succeed. She was genuinely interested in who we were as students and what drew us to become social workers. One of the most memorable activities she facilitated was a simple icebreaker. I was already preparing my 2 truths and a lie in my mind, but she flipped the script. She was asking us to interview each other and then introduce one another to the group. This simple exercise taught us how to uplift each other as we spotlighted our partner to the group. And I continue to borrow and use this icebreaker to this day with great success. Having Marion as my professor was one of the most transformative and inspiring experiences during my 2-year Master's of Social Work degree. She instilled confidence in me and my peers that we have what it takes to make a difference in our communities. She created such a safe and welcoming learning environment that we felt unafraid to ask questions, tough questions, challenge assumptions, and challenge ourselves. We can make mistakes, get valuable feedback, and feel supported. And our class became very close and tight-knit, which I know happened with all of our elements of lab classes. When I landed my first job as a new graduate, the first person I wanted to tell the faculty was Marion. Her eyes lit up. She said, "Oh, that is just wonderful news, Clara. You're going to be spectacular at it." And even though I was so nervous, she again instilled this confidence in me. And that vote of confidence lifted me during moments of self-doubt. When you have a teacher who believes in your talents and abilities, perhaps even more than you believe in yourself at that moment, it has a profound impact on your professional identity and self-esteem as an emerging social worker. When you're new at something and someone who's a seasoned expert at that thing says, "Be confident in your competence. I believe in you," that is powerful. To this day, I share this quote with my students proudly, both at placement and in the classroom. Marion's work and legacy inspires me to be the best social work practitioner, educator, and leader I can possibly be. I aspire to create the kind of safe, nurturing learning space that Marion cultivated in her classroom and in her relationships with students. I know I'm only one story, and there are thousands of stories like mine across the decades. Marion's legacy lives within every one of us, her former students, as we continue to make a difference in the lives of people and communities across the world. Thank you.
That was really lovely, Clara. And I think that summed up so much of my experience with Marion as a student. As my doctoral supervisor, teacher, and mentor, she deeply and profoundly impacted my learning and my growth. She was an excellent supervisor and mentor who always put my interests at the center of any conversation that we had. Was completely wholeheartedly committed to my success. One of the things that I heard Marion say in so many contexts was what I call Marionism. She said, "High expectations with high support." And that was practice wisdom that really characterized my doctoral experience under her supervision and really contributes to who I want to be as a social work educator. She was always pushing me a little beyond my comfort zone, but she was standing beside me the whole time. I have a couple of experiences at the first social work conference that she made me go to that just highlights that. So I didn't want to go. And she said, "There's no way you're going to make it in academia or go to a social work conference." So that was put to that. And then she said, "Okay, so next time we meet, come up with what you're going to present at the conference." And I thought, "Are you kidding?" So I went away and I came up with this great plan that was going to convince her that my first social work academic conference would be one that I would observe and I would take everything in. And this would be a great experience for my next year's social work education or social work academic conference. And she asked me questions which led me to the inevitable answer that is happening this year. So I did that. And then the last thing with that conference, she said, "Okay, next week, come back with a list of people," or we had a list around supervision, or shared area was around supervision. So come up with a list of people that you really admire their work. So I came back with a list. And she looked at it and she said, "Okay, this person will probably be here. That person will probably be here. That person for sure will be there. So I want you to go up and talk to them, introduce yourself." Are you kidding me? So I walked away and thought, okay, I can get away with not doing that. I'll push that away until next year. And so then at the conference reception, she came up to me and she said, "There's that person. And there's that person." She's like, "Go talk to them." So she nudged me and I had no choice. And I went and I talked to them. And then at the end of the night, we debriefed it. And I realized in that conference that I walked away with such an increased sense of confidence because she had confidence in me, and that really supported my learning and my growth. And then the second academic conference I went to with Marion, I realized just how important and influential a person she was in the social work, education, academic community. I've known her work and her reputation, but going to a conference with her and seeing the absolute reverence and respect that people had for her was inspiring and amazing. She had started a project as a special guest editor for a journal, and she brought me on to do some learning and administrative stuff. And she scheduled us at that conference, a big, large conference. She scheduled us meetings with people from like 7 a.m. till 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, and we just went the whole time. I was exhausted, and she was energized. And as we did this, we were meeting people and doing presentations. So I followed her around. And everywhere that we went, people would stop her and they wanted to connect with her. They wanted to share how her work influenced them, or they wanted just to connect with their friend and colleague whom they've had for many, many years. And that happened after conference presentations, it happened in the hallway, it happened in bathrooms. Like people were lining up to connect with her. And it was through being able to observe that I realized just how important she was within that community. Really had everything to do with who she was as a person. She was, from everything I was able to observe in the 6 years I had the great fortune of knowing her, she was brilliant. She so quickly made connections between people, concepts, research. And then she was able to really think deeply about that knowledge and how to distill it to those of us around her so that we could grasp it. And she did that partially because she had the best memory of anyone I have ever met. She was able to pick out, like I'd be struggling with how to make an argument, and she'd pick out a finding from research that was done 20 years ago, and then she'd pick out, an argument that somebody made 2 months ago in a research journal, and it just sort of helped you make the leap to where you needed to go. And she had so much energy, and that energy, as we heard people talk about, really fueled her dedication to social work education and practice. It was unwavering, and she tirelessly pursued her vision and really engaged people around her, excited them, and got them to invest and commit to doing that work alongside her, which is pretty amazing. And then I think the last thing that I took away was just her generosity. And that was my first glimpse at that conference, but I saw it continuously in the time that I knew her. She was so generous with her wisdom, with her time, with her care, and then with her offers of relationship. She cared deeply. She made that known. She connected with people all over the place, and it was just really, really inspiring to see. I feel like I benefited so much from the time that I knew Marion, and I feel for the loss of somebody who started as a social work educator 2 years ago. This past year has been hard because Marion is the person, whenever there's a decision or something I was considering, I would call her and she'd give me her advice. Like, she was available all the time for that and happily shared it. And so now I just take her with me and all the Marionisms that I have internalized and think of a decision that I can actually, I think I can guess, but she would advise me on and go with it and get to do that. So, thank you.
Hi, so it's very fascinating and wonderful to hear everybody speak about Marion, because it reminds me of qualitative research, all basically saying similar things. As I think about it, I think Marion as a mentor, I think for students, faculty, both formally and informally. And I realized that she actually started as my mentor when I was applying for the job. When I did my program, and then she came and met with me after, when you can do that. And she pointed out that I had left out some stuff that I had talked about that wasn't in my CV. And she thought that I should make sure that it's in my CV so that I represented myself. So I did that. And that was really what she's so thorough and just incredibly thorough. And also, when I had come from practice, I had been there and in practice for 20 years. And I was coming in a different way, and she sat me down and she said, you know, the practice that you got, that can't be learned in 2 minutes. So you can learn the other stuff, and we have to help you be who you are and bring that. And when I think about Marion, she's remarkably caring, nurturing, listens 100%. And the other thing I found really striking with her always is that she didn't give advice easily. I would talk and she would listen, she would help me sort that out. And I feel she does that for others as well. So she's incredibly caring, listening, at the same time, incredibly demanding and very pushy. And she would bring up stuff and say, I'm worried about this, you're not doing this, and you'd have to convince her that you actually were doing it. And if you convinced her, that was fine. And if you didn't convince her, she would keep that up. But it was really for the caring. So she's really, to have Marion as a mentor was really an extraordinary, special event. Experience. And I feel very lucky because I had her as a mentor from the beginning. And then when I became dean, one of the things that I realized, somebody that I felt like I could trust her completely because she was so honest. And honest in a way I think other people could resonate with this. She would say things you didn't necessarily want to hear, but she would say it in a way that even if you thought you knew you had to hear it. And because of that, I trusted her 100%. And when I became dean, another dean said to me, make sure you have a wise person. It's good to have a wise person. And I said, I do have a wise person. So I went to Marion and I said, you're my wise person, because I always knew she had my back. And we would talk about stuff. And people have said this, but I can't understate how much she has transformed social work, education, and her impact across the world. People would come from all over the globe to learn her methods. And here's this petite, as everybody said, perfectly dressed, elegant, best handbags, best purses. And in fact, when I became dean, she looked at me and she said, everything about you is perfect, but you're ready for it, but your purse has got to go. The right person. And also in meetings, anybody who's been in meetings with her should just pull out her lipstick. But as she's doing that, she is so thorough, so smart, and really grasping what's going on and pushing it. She was incredibly conceptual, but in a way that really was practical, because she really did believe in practice. And she really did believe in working and making it applicable. She had, the amazing awards that she got. She was, the Order of Canada as an officer initially. Cheryl said she was the very first non-American to become the Council of Social Education Significant Life Achievement. She got an honorary Doctor of Laws from Memorial University. She was a lead for a Northrop Frye at the University of Toronto for her simulation research. And can't underestimate how much her groundbreaking work. And even when we started the simulation program and it became a signature pedagogy, and we're thinking about wanting to raise money for it. At that point for simulation, it was medicine and nursing anyway, always, the money was for labs, for places. And Marion arranged for this person to come and speak with us. And the decision was, no, we don't need the space. We don't have real money for the places, for the locations, for the rooms. We need money for the people. And that's what she did. So that's why we have a wonderful simulation program where we can make sure it happens for all our students. And her dedication, I guess what stands out for me about her is that she really had it all, and she completely connected. She listened like nobody listens. She's honest, and she really, really, truly cares. And she's very humble. She's very humble. And the bottom line is she cared most about students. And I think about her mentoring, right? Always. She was always worried to make sure that she was pushing people, but also nurturing them. So I feel that for all of us students, faculty who got to be her formal and informal mentors, we're just incredibly lucky. And so all I can say is I miss her terribly, just terribly. And I think, as many, as we all do here, but it's a huge loss. But she lives on. As Karen said, I know exactly what she's saying. So I can have that conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I just want to express my appreciation to the people who spoke tonight, because it's lovely to hear your stories. And I think for a lot of us, they are echoes of our own experiences. So it's so nice to hear Marion being talked about this way. I have the task of ending the formal part of our evening here. And I don't know what more I could say about all the ways in which Marion Bogo touched us and supported us and grew with us. My own personal story of that is that I met Marion when I came for my master's degree in first year, first term. I was a student with a degree in biology. I knew a lot about pigeons and those things that psychologists torture. That's what I was doing. I knew a lot about that. I didn't know what social work was going to be for me. And my encounter with her in that first year, first term, set me on a path to a profession that I love. And I know that I am channeling her when I tell people the most important thing we are doing is educating social workers, effective, ethical, competent social workers that are going to take on the important projects in our communities. And channeling her when I say that. And many times in conversations with people, we hear ourselves going, "Ooh, Marion, I want to talk to Marion about this. I wish Marion was here. I would have talked to Marion about this. And I can't believe I'm sitting in the dean's office and I can't just go down to the third floor and ask Marion what she thinks." So she was very special and she's very missed. So those of you that are in our electronic channels know that we have erected a plaque on the third floor, close to Marion's office, close to the simulation lab, that speaks to her contributions. The plaque declares her as a trusted mentor, beloved educator, devoted community leader, and world-renowned expert. It still can't really capture it all. And I appreciated what Clara said about her being a rock star, because I remember going to a conference with her once, and she was being sworn like she was one of the Beatles. I couldn't believe it. So all of it's true, and yet somehow it just isn't enough to say who Marion Bogo was and how her presence will continue to be felt in our faculty and in our profession and in our lives. And I appreciate having her down here too, because when I think back on all the conversations I had with Marion, which was over a long time, she was even on my doctoral committee. I mean, a lot of conversation. The ones that I really think about a lot are when she talked to me about being an academic on the mummy track and what it was like to raise a family while you're doing this. And I just really valued what she shared with me. So with that, I will close the formal part of the evening and let us continue to be with each other and celebrate who she was and how she's brought us together now and before, and all of our love for her. Thank you all very much.